And I can just remember going in there and like a bare wooden floor and sort of real smell of leather about the place. And but of course, being a girl, I was just fascinated with the shoes. Really, I just like the shoes. Got a red pair from there once.
Right, you didn't wear them.
I didn't wear clogs as a girl. No, now my dad remembered, he didn't either, because his dad was a manager of a paint factory, and they thought they were rather grand, and he wouldn't be allowed to wear clogs, and he used to get kicked regularly at school. So had I been able to wear clogs, he would have probably let me. But people just didn't. Not by the time I was going to school.
No.
No, we were all in shoes then. But I presume the farmers used to, the fact that he was still making them, there was clearly still a demand, so I think the farmers wore them and workmen.
Were the canals still working in those days or not?
Well, there were, yeah, there were working barges, because Ainsco's flour mill, I remember Mum and I, when we walked down to the village, we used to cut through that way, past Shepherd's and Ainsco's, and you'd see the barges pulled up alongside, loading up with flour. And it must have been really the tail end. I mean, most things were being moved by road then, but why they did it, I don't know. But it was just a hangover from days gone by. But yeah, they did still used to have barges on the canal.
You didn't clog dance as such, did you? But you used to wear clogs.
I did clog dance.
Did you?
Yes. I learnt. Well, I was probably about 16, and I got a book from the English Folk Dance and Song Society called Clog Steps for Beginners by a gentleman called Mr. Jeff Hughes, who I'd never heard of then, but know very well now. And I'll be seeing him this weekend. But I also used to go round to Bill Gibbons's house, because he clog danced. See, I'd learnt tap dancing. And obviously with my mother being a dancer as well, I'd always danced. And the first time I saw Bill Gibbons was at a church fete at the St John's Anglican School. And I remember pushing my way to the front because I was fascinated to see what this clog dancing was. And then terribly disappointed when he didn't really move very much apart from his feet. And then I was used to sort of all this business, he's not doing very much. But then when I started clog dancing, I used to go around to his house. And the deal was, he was supposedly trying to teach me his steps, and I was supposedly trying to teach him to play the accordion. And we both gave it up as a bad job because he couldn't play the accordion and I couldn't get his steps. But I did used to clog dance.
Who was Bill?
He was a bargee, I know that. That's about as much as I know about him, really. I mean, I remember him and his wife, and they had a little poodle. And I remember going to their house and sitting in it. I know he was a friend of Emma Vickers, because I'd met Emma Vickers again through dancing, because I used to dance with it was our dancing class really, but we used to go around performing. And she was at a couple of things that we were performing at the Copperwood Grill, as was then. There's now been a succession of Indian restaurants over the last few years. And so I think that's all I knew of him, really.
Yeah. Because Emma was a bit of a celebrity, wasn't she?
Oh, she was.
So tell me about Emma.
Oh, well, as I say, I met her at the Copperwood Grill one night when we were performing, and she was a larger-than-life character. She was a big woman, but by this time anyway, she was a big woman, but she was big personality, and she loved kids, and she loved she thought we were fantastic, all these little girls in little costumes all dancing about. She thought it was brilliant. But again, a bit like my Auntie Edie, I found it a bit intimate. I always found big personalities a bit overwhelming. But when I think back, she was just lovely. I remember her telling a story that night about how she'd fallen. She was on the floor doing something, and she somehow ended up with her feet over her head, stuck under the settee. And the word I remember her saying was, "I essled up. I essled up to the..." And it meant sort of shuffled or something like that. I remember, and I essled up, and she was telling this story, and everybody was crying, laughing at it. This image of big Emma Vickers on the floor with her feet stuck over her head.
She was somebody I never knew, although I'd heard about, because various people sang songs that could they collect. Did you used to do any of those songs?
Well, I only sing one song of hers, and I have to confess I learnt it off Vera Raspi's LP, so I didn't learn it directly from source. Because at the time I knew her, I was younger, and I didn't know about folk music and had no interest in folk music at the time, and it was only afterwards when you sort of join up the dots and you think, oh yes, I remember her. She was, and I remember when we were doing these performances, and she did play a melodeon and sing, because I wasn't really taking very much notice because I was only about 11 at that time. I just thought it was just, another turn. And, we'd been performing with like Al Jolson impersonators and different cabaret singers. And to me, she was just another one of those,
Yeah. So, she's no longer with us, as is Bill Gibbons. So we've got certain recordings of her, and that's about it.
Yes.
There's a DVD of Bill.
Yes.
Not a brilliant film, but it's 10 minutes of
Yeah.
him doing some dancing and some audio of Emma. I don't know if there's any film of Emma at all anywhere, but
no, I've never seen any. I know they have they had her photograph up in the over 60s club.
I've still got it.
Still there,
Still
yes.
Do you remember the pace egging?
No, that had finished by the time. Sorry, I didn't know of it. I think it had finished. I never heard about it because I know she used to do it with the school kids, didn't she? And I think it was from the Methodist school.
Right.
And because I was at the Methodist school, if it had been going on, I think I would have known about it.
Yeah.
So I think it had all gone.
Because the only thing I knew about the pace egging was when I heard the song, that and it wasn't particularly Emma's version of it. It was somebody else's version that was going round at the time.
Yeah.
In fact, there were two. There was one that Derek Gifford used to sing.
Right.
Which I can't remember. Here's 1, 2, 3, jolly lads all in one mind. We've come a pace again, and we hope you'll prove kind.
Yes.
And so on. And there's another one that was on. Was it on the Deep Lancashire? I beg your leave, fine gentlemen and ladies of renown. If you're pleased to make us room, then we will sing to you a song. If you're pleased to make us room, we will sing to you a song. And I'll call on me comrades, and I'll call them one by one. For we're jolly boys, we do no harm. Wherever we may go, and we've come a pace egging as you jolly well do know. Now that particular verse is on the wharf.
Yes,
that's
the words of hers. Yes.
Yeah, so that's a version, maybe not quite the tune, but
no, you see that's the problem. There were so many.
Yeah.
I know Eddie Cass, he's an academic from Manchester. He's done a big study into, and he wasn't a folkie.
No.
He just happened to go along this line of traditional plays and pace eggs. And as far as he has been able to ascertain, there was never anything other than the song. If there ever was a play that went with it, it was lost so far back in time. It was before Emma's time.
Yeah.
And that's just how it ended up as a remnant, really.
Yeah. Talking to other people, they've said they remember maybe just going round their little bit of street and knocking on the doors, asking for eggs or money or whatever.
Yes.
They wouldn't go elsewhere. They wouldn't go to the next street.
Yeah.
Somebody else's territory.
Right.
But they don't remember a play.
So what sort of years are they remembering it from? Was it going when I was a kid and I just don't know about it?
I think it's probably maybe late 50s, early 60s.
Right, yeah.
When it finished. I may be wrong, it might be in the 30s when it finished, but as such, but...
I don't know, I felt as if it was going longer than that. Yeah. I think it was probably, from what I've heard and certainly from what Eddie's managed to look into, I think it was up to the 50s anyway.
Right, yeah.
But I didn't think it had kept going longer than that.
Yeah. Did you ever have pace eggs?
No. Only that in the sense that my mum and dad remembered them, but that was from the Bolton.
Right.
And I didn't really understand because we had the coloured egg, and to my dad, pace egging was rolling an egg. Yeah. It was as far as my dad was concerned, there was nothing to do with a play or anything. It was rolling eggs, and they used to go and do it up at Rivington. But the first time I was given the choice, I was given an egg. Right, where would you like to go and roll your egg? Tatton Park, says I. It's flat as a pancake. But anyway, we went. bowled it along the ground.
So what did you do? Just roll it?
Just
up?
rolled it,
And
yeah.
that was it, yeah.
Yeah. There must have been more to it at one point.
I know my granddad used to make us base eggs,
Right.
boiling them in onion skins.
Yes, yeah.
And you could paint things,
Yeah,
faces
patterns
or
on.
whatever, patterns,
Yeah. And sometimes we used to stick things on as well, like little petals and make a flower.
Because my mum made some for the Burscough event that we had in June, I think it was.
Oh, right.
So she brought them along, a dozen of them, and I sang the base egg song and showed these eggs to people. I think they're quite interested in it.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether they'll revive the song to the school children.
I hope they do.
Have some sort of an event to see to show them what went on.
Yeah, no, I hope they do because there's so many other things that they're linking into, and seeing as that was there, it would be a shame to miss it out, really.
Yeah. Tell me about the transport that you had. From being small.
Yes.
Did your dad have a car?
Oh yes. They were very posh, my mum and dad. His first car was a black Ford Anglia, which was before I was born. But then just around, either just before I was born or around that, he got a Zephyr Zodiac. It was his pride and joy, 2-tone, white and green, LBN 975. I remember it. Leather seats, drop down arm in the front. Of course, no seat belts in those days. And it was a bench seat. So when I was little, we used to ride all three at the front with me in the middle. And if there was just me and Dad, when I was a baby and I had a chair, like a kiddie chair with a table, and I had my own little steering wheel on a podder, and I used to drive alongside my dad. And we thought we were I thought we were terribly grand because not many people in the road had cars. I think the only other two people, Tom Spencer had a little Austin van, which he used to take us sometimes in the back of. We used to sort of scooch down in the back of his old Austin van with the old indicators that came out the side. And the other one was Eric Scholliker had one of those half-timbered Morris jobs. Morris Travellers, green one. I think they were the only cars until the Vickers next door, Dorothy and Dennis, they got a Citroen Diane, which seemed very, very good. Do you remember those? They went up.
That's right, yeah.
And they were beautiful, beautiful cars. But it, like most of their cars, it ran for a bit and then it broke down. And it stayed in the drive for years and years. There's one there now, isn't there? And I remember Dorothy saying to my mum, if they don't shift that car, I'm going to put a match to it. I've had enough of it. It took them years to get rid of it. But then, and after the Zodiac, then we had a Ford Corsair, white Ford Corsair. And then he had a white Morris Oxford, which I learnt to drive in. And if you remember how big the Morris Oxford was, and imagine me behind the wheel. I used to have a cushion under me and a sit right at the back of me. And going up hills, I used to look through the steering wheel.
I think I remember you driving.
Yeah, yes. 98-point turn because you just couldn't haul the thing round.
Yes, those are the days before power steering.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So did you go on holiday at all?
We did, yeah. Well, we had a caravan, you see. And right from as soon as really they could take me, any opportunity we'd go hitch up the caravan and go weekend. And Dad, even because Dad used to do nights and links a lot, and he would take me and my mum, say to Chester or something, leave us on the Rudy car park, go back and do his shift, and then come back at 11 o'clock. And we'd be on our way because the hardest part of getting out in the caravan was getting the blooming thing down the path. So once you'd done that, it didn't matter if we only went 5 miles. We were out and we were going, and so we went all over. And I do remember in the 4th year juniors at school, one of the geography lessons we had, they gave us, do you remember those purple maps they used to do on a roller? They used to have a rubber roller and purple ink. And they gave us a little purple outline of the British Isles, and they said, mark on there where you've been on your holidays. And so everybody's like, Blackpool, Scarborough, wherever. And I'm there, right, well, I've been here and I'm making all these. Never had the wit just to say, oh, I finished. So come break time, everybody else went out to play and I'm still at it, and thinking I'm being punished now for some reason. Just trying to remember all the places we'd been. Oh, we went everywhere. I loved it. Apparently I cried my eyes out the first time when they told me we were going home because I thought that was our life now.
Right.
I just loved going in the caravan. Went to York. I used to love it. But then because package holidays started coming in the sort of 1970s, I suppose. The first place we ever went was Belgium, and that was 1969, but we went by train, which I'm so pleased with it now. I wouldn't do it now, goodness gracious. We went to the station, Burscough Junction station, and it was night time. It was probably the last train really. We had to get the train from there to Ormskirk, change at Ormskirk, down to Liverpool, taxi across to Lime Street, sleeper train down to London. For some reason, I don't know whether they'd just not booked ahead or there was some problem, but only me and my mum were in the sleeper compartment and we were sharing with somebody else. So it was me and mum in the top bunk and some other woman in the bottom bunk. And my dad sat in the carriage all night. Got to London in the morning, had to get to Euston and then get the boat train to Dover, ferry from Dover to Ostend, coach from Ostend to Bruges. And my dad had all the luggage and he must have been exhausted by the time we got there. I was so disappointed with Bruges as we pulled, because I'd seen, by this time brochures were coming out, and I'd seen what abroad looked like, and it didn't look like Bruges. Abroad looked like big high-rise hotels and swimming pools. Bruges had cobbles. Well, back Bridgeman Street in Bolton had cobbles, and I wasn't impressed at all. I love Bruges now.
Yeah.
But, it was a good holiday. We really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Hotel Jacobs.
Did you go away with the school or not?
Yeah. It was the year after that, actually. We went to Holland. And I've only recently found out where we were as well, because I didn't remember until I found a letter from my mum to me when I was there, and it was near Middleburg. We went in a hotel near Middleburg.
That was with the junior school, was it?
Yeah, I think it was about Junior 3.
Right.
Yeah, Junior 3 it would have been.
Yeah. How much did that cost? Did you know, or was it something that you just took a letter home and?
Probably just took it. It wasn't as I mean, there was discussion. I do remember, because I mean we were quite okay money wise. My dad had a good job in it, a well paid job, but my mum didn't work, and so we weren't that flush that they could just throw money about. So I do remember there being discussion about it, but I went anyway. So it can't have been that desperate.
What about the grammar school? Did you go away there?
Yes, yeah, we went to London in the first year.
What was that for?
What, for just a school trip?
Was it?
Yeah. Did you not go?
No.
I don't think you missed very much. It was a fairly dodgy hotel we stayed in, I seem to remember, and I got lost in the Tower of London.
Right.
I wasn't lost. I knew exactly where I was, because I was going round, the main tower bit, and as I was coming out, a big party of tourists was coming in, and I sort of got swept up in the middle of them and got carried back in again. And by the time I came out, everybody had gone. And it was Mr. Evans that was dispatched to find me. I mean, they must have been in a right old panic.
Which Mr. Evans was that?
Mr. Evans, English, little chap. Was he English or was he?
There was.
No, he might have been history.
He was quite a big chap.
Oh.
There was Mr. Evans, geography, but again he was fairly big. He wasn't Mr. Gray, was it?
Mr. Gray. You see, you've got a much better memory for these things than that. Mr. Gray it was, yeah.
John Binnell Gray.
Oh, is it? Oh, I never knew that.
Yeah.
No, he was the one. I had to get in a taxi with him to catch everybody else up at St Paul's, and yes, I wasn't really in trouble. I don't think. I can't remember getting shouted at, but I was a bit panicky at the time, thinking I didn't know where everybody had gone.
Yeah. What about other school trips? I mean, I remember going to Chester Zoo and.
Oh yeah. Well, yes, I remember going to Chester Zoo. Yeah. My mum sent me with a packed lunch, which only my mum who didn't get it because she knew I wasn't good at eating sandwiches. So she sent me with a salad and a chicken leg and a boiled egg. And of course, straight away, if you're different from anybody else, I can't remember who it was, but I remember somebody lobbing it into a bush somewhere. And sort of making fun of me for having this chicken leg. And thinking, oh, I wanted that. Yeah, Chester Zoo we went to. Wales, we went on a geography trip to Wales. And went and looked at a coombe.
That would be North Wales, wouldn't it?
North Wales.
Nanfranken.
Oh, is that where it was?
Yes, Coombe Idval.
Oh.
The Nanfranken Valley.
Right.
And we always stopped at Bromborough on the way to look at the Bromborough Fault.
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah.
Yes, and then on the way back we stopped at Coed, Battersea Coed.
Yeah.
Yes, and went in the gift shop.
Other trips I remember were Fountains Abbey and Skipton Castle.
Yes, I do remember going there. But I think because I'd been to Skipton Castle anyway with Mum and Dad, so I think that one sort of didn't really make much of an impression on me. But we went to France. That was one trip. Got a photograph of me and Kim on the steps of going up to near the Eiffel Tower.
And was that because you were doing French, or?
I think it was open to anybody because it was before options.
Yeah.
It was I think it was in the second year, something like that. Particularly if you look at the pictures of us, Kim's got these big orange pigtails and we're both striking a pose on the steps.
Yeah.
But France was so funny because we went to Paris, and then we went to Blois. And in fact, I found a diary. I kept a diary. And it was I was so enjoying reading it because I remembered the things so well. Blois, the hotel in Blois. What the school must have paid for this. It must have been Thritham's halfpenny a head because we had to go across like a metal bridge to get to the rooms, and they were so dark, and it was like we thought it was like being in a concentration camp. And some of the boys got moved because their room, the sink fell off the wall as soon as they went. Well, it might have been help, but the sink fell off the wall, so they got moved to another hotel. And then there was me and Heather Jenkins and Lynn Jennings. Got chased down the road by some lads, and when I read it in the diary, it was really interesting that the sort of 12-year-old perspective on what had happened. And in what I'd read, I thought they wanted sweets. We'd got some sweets and they wanted these sweets off us. And then they chased us. But actually, they were probably just messing around, But we were genuinely frightened and ran into the hotel screaming, the boy's chasing us. And then after that, we went to Le Touquet. It was a slightly better hotel. It was a good trip. As I say, accommodation to one side because it must have been fairly cheap. Hotels. The one in Paris, Kim and I were in this room, and I know there was a cockroach in the shower, and we were right at the top of the hotel. And when you think about it, we were only 12, and you were without your parents. Probably not very often in your life that had happened, and this big old hotel, and it was creepy to us, and you had to go up these narrow winding stairs, and they had those light switches where you press them and they don't quite stay on long enough for you to get to the next landing, so you do the last bit in the dark. And I remember laying in bed, and we were really freaked out. We were sort of really creeped out by this hotel, and then we could hear footsteps above us, and we're going, what's that now? And Kim said, it's just the people upstairs. Oh, right, okay. We're on the top floor. So I don't know what it was.
Happy days.
Oh, there were.
I don't think there's anything else I've got to ask you.
No.
Unless there's anything else you want to tell me, but.
About Burscough.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, other than to say that when I was little, it was obviously a lot smaller than it is now. When I look at it now, it's not the place I grew up anymore. But then I don't suppose anywhere is.
No.
But I like what they're doing. I like what they're doing at the wharf. I think they're putting a bit of the heart back into the place. So.
Yeah. Do you think the wharf will maintain itself or not?
That's a very big question. I hope so. I know it's Julie Guy's family, isn't it? And they've stumped up the initial cash now. Whether they're prepared to sustain it or whether it's going to, if it needs to be self-sustaining, that's where these things can fall down, isn't it? Because it's all fine and dandy at the beginning, but then it starts getting run down, and then people don't go, and it spirals. I hope it keeps going, because at the moment I can see already, with them putting on entertainment there and having events there, it's becoming a bit of a hub for the village, which is what it's lacked. You know, the Stanley Institute was always the place people used to go to, but I mean, it was so run down and kind of real working men's clubby. And
do you remember when there was a cinema at the Stanley or not?
Well, I do. I never went there. I think the last film was shown in something like 1966.
Right.
And when I used to go there, because I used to go to dancing classes there, and it was still there then, because I think I was about 5 when I first started going to dancing classes. And yeah, the projection room was the little sort of bit that built onto the end. And you could see it was set up for it. Well, I think it was about 1966 the last film was shown. And it always smelt of beer.
Unsurprising, really.
Yeah, in the carpet, you know.
Yeah.
Sort of stale, vinegary beer. And cigarette smoke.
Right, I'm going to ask you if you'd read this piece, please. Just
Right.
have a quick look through and then read
Thank
it
you.
when you're ready.
Okay. Right. The northwest of England has many interesting dialects, although some people have no idea about all the differences. If someone from the south saw an episode of Emmerdale on the television, they might think all the actors came from Yorkshire. After all, that's where the programme comes from. But that's not the case, as at least 3 come from Lancashire. The production company looks for actors who sound northern. Maybe they think that, with luck, no one will notice. Apparently, Lancashire folk make good singers too, because their accent is musical. I have to say that it wouldn't take many fingers to count how many good singers I know. I don't think that's true, actually. Anyway, sorry. Accents have changed a lot over time. When I was little and sitting on a chair doing nothing, my father would